Greetings to the family. Greetings to the family. Greetings to the family. Another segment, another journey with regards to Run Tell That. And it is an honor on this evening, this early evening, to have my sayings, and let y'all know I don't do shameless plugs. I do actual plugs. My sayings is here. Spring 86 in the house, baby. Spring 86. My sayings are right there with me, who've gone through a part of my life, a part of a journey in my life. And as I had shared last week, the week before, I am stunned and amazed that in my lifespan, I have come in contact and I have immersed in my life some great and tremendous people. And tonight, as I say, my sayings, many of you know him. Some of you don't know him, but you're going to know him tonight. That is Tkeban Jahannes in the house, my boy, my brother, bam, in the crib. He's in the crib right now. He's in the house. So, Ja, as we call you, and those of you who don't know this, but you know this now, we call him Ja. Because again, he's a power and a force. Because again, Jahannes, and some of y'all probably say, wait a minute. Wait. Yeah. That's him. That's them. And so, yeah, it's an honor to have you here tonight, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor to be here and be in your presence.
Yes. So I'm gonna start out because we just roll with, we just flow with it. Who are you? Who are you, Ja?
Who am I? I am the son of two very high-thinking international beings. My mother and father. Everyone knew of my father in Savannah, Dr. Jahannes, who was at one point dean, professor of psychology at Savannah State, and my mother, Patricia Ann Taylor, who went from being a librarian to an archivist to a lawyer, and now she's the commissioner of elections for Staten Island section of New York City. Other than that, I'm a surrogate son of Savannah, moved there in my youth in 1981, and graduated from Johnson High School. Yes, much love to Johnson High, not to equal but excel. I know Jamal is all about Jenkins, and I have no problem with him with that. He has no problem with me repping my school. Much love. And then, of course, came to Savannah State, which at the time was college, and became university, and was fortunate enough to be online with this individual and 8 other individuals with the 9 narcissistic laws of the Golden Temple of Satisfaction that Diamond Line presents, Good Looks Incorporated. That's the whole thing out there. And was fortunate enough to have some not only good friendships, but some great mentors that led me in the right direction. I was mass comm and Players by the Sea and newspaper and yearbook, and that led me into doing graphic design, which changed the trajectory of my life. And I ended up working in Atlanta for 2 mayors and several other people, but also doing stuff in the arts with film and dance and video and all kinds of stuff. And life has it that you move when the powers that be move you. And I went to St. Louis, then to New York, and now I am here in Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir. Now, I'm going to share this with you all. Jar just lied about something. He just lied. He just lied. And some of y'all know ain't nothing changed. It is the happy hunting ground. He won't focus on Saul C. Johnson, Adam Smashes, stuff like that. It's HBJ, 1800 East Durant Avenue, but we're gonna move on. But he just tried. I ain't suffering no blows about that. But yes, so my brother, you are the director of communications for the National Council for Negro Women. What is that about? What is the National Council of Negro Women? Then we're going to move into with regards to your job. But first, what is the National Council of Negro Women? Why are they significant to us and pertinent to us?
The National Council of Negro Women is an organization that's been around for 85 years that was started by Dr. Marion McLeod Bethune. Everybody knows that Marion McLeod Bethune started Bethune-Cookman College. Well, she did more than just that because she saw a need for women to be raised up not only equal but excel. We currently have 320 sections, most people, and we have more than 50,000 members, but also we have 32 affiliate organizations. So our reach is more than 2 million women across the planet. And we work with all the other organizations. Everybody knows the Divine Nine. So we work with those ladies, but we also business sororities and professional societies. You can go to www.ncnw.org to see a complete list of the 32. But our job is to simply lead, empower, uplift, and advocate for women of African descent, their communities, and their families. I almost quoted the entire mission, but I was trying not to. We stand on four foci, and these have been changed as time changes because we are ever evolving, just like any organization. You know, if you stand still, then you're dead. We have to move forward. And currently, our national president is a woman that is always looking towards the future, always seeing that it takes roots with experience and wings with energy and knowledge. And that is Dr. Janetta Besh Cole. Many people know her as the president of Spelman. She was also the president of Bennett, and then she worked as president for the African Arts Museum of the Smithsonian. And now she is our director. I joke with her, but she always says the only thing that she cannot do is retire. But we're in almost, we're in 32 states and probably in a city near many of you. In fact, there are two Savannah sections, one at Savannah State College, which is the undergraduate section, and then there's the community section. So those ladies after college can have connectivity for mentoring, leadership, networking, and what have you. So that's NCNW in a nutshell. It is to better Black women, which betters the whole community and the whole Black race.
Okay, cool. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's about empowerment and that we look out for us. So you alluded to some aspects of it, but then I just want to go ahead and dig deep in this. How did you get involved in this field? How did you get involved in this arena?
Well, you know, it's funny, and you may remember this. I was always the advocate for the Alpha Sweethearts back in undergraduate. And that's partially because I have nothing but sisters. The only way I was going to have brothers was frat. That was foreshadowing and foretelling as to my future. Many of my most influential and powerful bosses have been women. And in doing and in working with them and learning from them, I was able to meet other folks. One of the people who I met along my journey is currently the executive director, Janice L. Mathis, who is from North Carolina, but she is a litigation lawyer outside Athens, Georgia, and then she worked in Atlanta, so we crossed paths. And when she was looking for a person for communications, she reached out to me, and I just happened to be available. And it worked out. Many people ask me, how is it that a man is the director of communications for a women's organization? And I first of all say, well, that's very sexist of you to think that.
Okay.
Because you know we're talking about making sure that the lines are level across the board. Well, that goes both ways. And then secondly, I say I have 5 sisters, 2 daughters, and 2 granddaughters. So
Okay.
I am fully equipped to deal with women in most situations. And that just kind of ties over. And because of what I've done over the past 30 years in communications, in one field or another, it was my job to come in and help NCNW push to be a part of the 21st and 22nd century in design and social media. We took our newsletter, we turned it to a magazine now, and we're getting a lot of traction with that. So that's how I got to be where I am, and this makes my 2-year, 2-month anniversary.
Okay, cool. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And some of our Savannah State fam, they were saying that this is nostalgic for them to see this right here, and that you truly can't get anywhere. And that's why I'm like, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so we now move on to another area that is important to us, and this is pertinent to all of us. Doesn't matter where you're located at. And my thing now, because you're in communication, and just like you talk about publications, you are involved with regards to what we know as the media. And my question to you is, why is it important for us to tell our story? And that's what in those various phases when I say story, it's not just like people think folklore, but with regards to us talking about us, why is it important for us to talk about us and tell our story?
Short version, because nobody else will. So with that, we have to make it upon ourselves. The African American, the Black person, the so-called Negro, whichever one you want to choose, during the course of history has always been a part of that history, has always been a part of the makeup. Now, those in power are always going to skew the stories towards themselves. And in doing so, they have omitted the part about our contribution. From Eli Whitney to Jim Beam to Washington, D.C. being laid out, you get pieces. They like to give us what I call footnote credit. So-and-so was there. So-and-so got killed. So-and-so did that. But we were always there from the moment we were brought over as what? Prisoners of war, enslaved people, because we were never slaves. We were enslaved, and there's a difference because one is a mentality and how you deal with things. Now, we have come a long way, and there's much further we need to go, but we are now in a position to tell our stories. At this particular time, there are more movie houses, television shows, television production companies, writers of color that are being seen because we have taken the time, we have had people whose shoulders we stand on fight that fight for us. You know, I can get caught up in a whole bunch of stuff, but even in Savannah, our story has not been told the way it should be. Many people don't know that Savannah State College was Georgia State Normal School, which was the original Georgia State before Atlanta was even the capital. And then they decided to move that there. So our story is embedded always in the history, but we're always put on the margins, we're always put on the footnotes. But now we're in a position that we're starting to tell it because Black is the new Black. That's just the truth.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, and you threw some things out there, and I'm gonna piggyback off of some of that. Why is it important for us to have Black media? Why is it important for us to have Black media, Black PR people, Black communication directors? Why is that important to us?
Because, okay, they don't say it, but because there's white media, there's white communications director, there's white channels, there's white production companies. If it is owned by, run by, developed by a white person, and really they're Caucasian, they're not even white, but it is the party line. They just don't label it that, but that's the truth. Those people who are in charge, so we have to create our own lane. We have to go out and create ours, and we're not negating theirs. You know, you can have yours, but the problem with media is
go ahead.
Money. The problem with media is people will see something and then say, okay, It's lucrative. We're going to make an offshoot. We're going to make a copy because it makes the money. But if you go back all the way to Amos and Andy, here you had a radio show that were two white men, and when they decided to put it on television, they got two black actors to play Amos and Andy, but the entire writing staff was all white, who knew nothing of the black experience. And so therefore it was just reinvented, and retold from that perspective, which still was not our story. So now having the presidents, the vice presidents, the producers, the directors, the writers who are part of African American society, who have skin in the game, who grew up in suburban neighborhoods, who grew up in ghettos, who grew up in the South, who grew up in rural areas, they can tell the story from a real perspective, not a guess, not something they read and then tried to emulate, but it is from their life perspective. And it's more authentic, it's more honest, and it's more truthful.
All right, John, that's right. You just gave something, and something he threw out there. It took me back to Donald Bogle's book, one of the one of the major books that talked about coons and jigaboos and bucks, and talked about that when they talked about these images that were a part of the media, that how they had relegated us to certain images. And so, yeah, when you did that, I'm like, okay, yes, yes. I'm like, we listening to Donald Bogle when he talks about this. And I got to throw this out there that you said this. So with regards to African Americans, we tend to trust the media. That's what some of the studies have said. We tend to trust the media. Why is that? And why is that dangerous for us to fully be vetted into the media that we don't control?
Well, let me go back and just slight Donald Bogle, who was a friend of my father's, who actually came to Savannah State,
Yes.
the launching of Mammy Bucks and Coons, which was his second book. I have a signed copy over here.
Wow.
Situation that while the story is being told, we get caught up in the look and the feel and the stylizing, but we don't follow the facts. Again, the golden rule: the one with the gold makes the rules. Now, we have been desensitized because, like Malcolm X said, if you want people not to know something and not be scared of it, put it in a movie, put it on the TV, because now it's dramatized. It's not the real thing. And we have done that so much that we don't even think about it. You know, the number one set of television shows on television across all the major channels are police shows, where they show you how the police trick and lie and put people in rooms for hours in order to get a confession. And then they also show how they get them to sign papers. And we have decided that that's okay because it's on TV, it's a drama. So we have bought into, instead of thinking about what is being told, which is why having, while I love CNN, I'm watching BNC now because I'm hoping to get the Black person perspective on the stories. The media is still owned largely by the white patriarchal society. And we've had our moments, but even BET is now part of Viacom. So it's still now part of the major machine. So you have to look at the source. My grandmother said with a sixth grade education, always look at the source.
Okay.
Where's the story coming from? What's the perspective? And I used to work at WTOC right there in Savannah. I interned there as a college student, got a job there, and it frustrated me to no end to watch two things. One, I watched the reporters slowly become detached from their own emotion. Two, I would watch as something would be happening, and we'd go cover the story, and there'll be 12 people standing outside, and the reporter would pass up the 3 PhDs and the 2 master's degrees to talk to the person with the do-rag on their head or, curlers in their hair. So they got the perspective. They were all Black people, but they automatically went to somebody that said, well, they're going to talk to me. and they weren't getting an intelligent perspective. Well, if you do that year in and year out over and over and over, then we start to think that no longer life imitates art, art imitates life, and before you know it, that's what we're looking for. So that is what has happened. When you look at half the news, there are 22 people out there, they'll try to get somebody that they want to get a quote unquote good soundbite. A good soundbite is not necessarily the truth because it's short and it's sweet. And, they can take it back, cut it, and edit it. And I used to be on that side. But the truth is, somebody with intelligence saw the whole thing, and they're not talking to them. I was watching something not too long ago when things were going down in New Orleans, and where they were bashing people, transgender people, and the person came on the microphone and she said, "You should be glad that we want justice and not revenge." And I thought about that because that would be a completely different scope of work, a completely different thing. If all the minorities who collectively together are now the majority stop and ask for revenge upon the people who have inflicted pain, suffering, torture, physical and mental, years. That's because of 3 millimeters of skin and melanin. That is the difference. We now know this physically, and because we've done enough operations, first of all, on Black people without any anesthesia, and then come back and now, so our bodies are built the same. It is a layer of skin and the constitution of melanin, which is the difference between all people, because we've now identified that in Africa, the original human is a Black person. And, but we grow up with the propaganda. And let me tell you this, one of the reasons I'm in communication is because one of the best things that America has ever been able to do is propaganda. We are the best. Now, if you look at history, the religiously persecuted were the ones that came to America, quote unquote, after Columbus, because he didn't discover America. So it's after Columbus. And then those who were indentured servants and those who were prisoners, they brought them all to the United States. And then the same people who were in those bad positions came back and said, okay, we're religiously persecuted, but now you people who are already here, you're not living like us, so you don't have a soul, and we must save your soul, and we're going to make you live like us, put clothes on like us, and change. And then as time went by, even with New York and the big buildings and the stuff like that, we became the melting pot. Let's take a look at that, because the melting pot means we are all immigrants. But yet somehow the melting pot did something with chemistry so that we decided we are the best. United States of America, the best of the best. And our biggest thing is propaganda. And people believed it through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and everything that has happened up until now, where because of the media and because of instantaneous, because of social media, people can see that we have been lying to the world, we have been lying to ourselves, and we have been lying to one another.
Okay.
Because how can the best giving missionary aid to this country and that country, but not giving aid to the people in our country, to the veterans that fought the wars before this, and have such a homeless population and have such a prison population? How is it we're the best when we've got the largest prison population on the planet? And I know I'm talking a lot, but
that's how I should go. That's why you putting out bombs, and I'm just saying to taking it in. That's right, brother. Go ahead, continue. This is how we roll. We got Ifikon checking it out. Ifikon, we're gonna have him back, and people again. That's what our audience, a group of people want to know. Put it out there.
But the bottom line still is, knowing is part of it, but also acting upon it is the second part, and spreading the quote unquote gospel. The truth hurts, and it only hurts those people who don't already know the truth. They say ignorance is bliss. Well, that's true, but also ignorance doesn't grow. Ignorance doesn't change. And by the fact that we are on the planet, every particular moment that you breathe, you should be changing. It's like when we join a fraternity. When we first got in, I had friends of mine who said, "You changed," and I was like, "Well, hell yes, I just went through 7 weeks of a process which changed my perspective on life. If I didn't change, then that would be a problem."
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've also changed that perspective in everything. I am not the same man I was 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. And if I am, then there is a problem with my own personal growth, and I need to check myself. Fortunately, I also surround myself with good people who are honest enough to check me if I'm slipping too.
And that's it. And sometimes we do grapple with that and have issues, and that is absolutely correct. Because people like my cousin Vanessa Taylor, Sister Tia Brightwell, Sister Sharon Chisholm, Sister Andrea, again, our family, Savannah State, and that's again what they do. They check us with regard to what we do on the show and let us know what we got going on. Like I say, Ipicon, Leo, again, that's what it's about. And you said something with regards to, and we look at ourselves with regards to these images, and these images get bombarded at us and it hits us hard, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you said that, that is absolutely correct. And I have to say this, John, that I think many people tend to ignore that or just act like it's not true because we got these images hitting us, these negative images, and so it's someone else that's doing that. They are not almost picking your representation for you, which is not that person who is that parent, that person that is that son, that is that responsible child, that responsible daughter, that person who is working. They put these images out there. And then what happened? We then buy into it. And that's when I say it becomes absolutely dangerous for us, and we then engage in it. And that's why I'm listening to you like, yes, that's it. And let y'all know, these are the conversations that many of us had, not just, as adults, but we had these conversations as young people, as young adults, and that these perspectives are right there. So that's why I say it's nothing new. And just like when you say about the growth, I'm thinking about with regard to Ipicon. Ipicon was on here, and he's talking about he's telling Sister Terry, again, one of our great supporters also, Terry Mobley, saying, everybody, he say, a farmer is a great lover because a farmer knows how to nurture. And that's what, again, but it's tied to growth. As you said, you're not the same person. And that is what we need to understand, that we must evolve. And sometimes some of us are afraid to evolve because we've been bombarded with these incorrect images about who we are truly. I'm like, we are people that are responsible. We understand, we have compassion. And when you talk about the homeless, I tell folks the first homeless population that I really saw was in Washington, D.C. And when I'm in D.C. interning, I'm getting off the metro and I'm going up the escalator, and I see people sitting by the side of the escalator, and I know they have no place to stay. But what happens in turn is that people walking by them, and I'm stunned at that. So yeah, I'm like, yes, we have a nation that can go outside of here, and that's something I brought up in the class today. We are listed in the U.S. World Report, U.S. News and World Report rather. They went and did the 10 worst nations in the world regarding racial issues. United States is number 10. United States is number 10. But then they also had the best nations in the world. And guess what? The United States is number 6. And I said, what's going on with that? And some of my people started saying, how are we on both lists? I said, that goes to show you we got to make changes. And some of the changes are tied to the very field that you're in. And that's why I'm going to ask you this question, is with regards to the media. Should the media be a watchdog for society? Your perspective with regard, should the media be a watchdog regarding society? Oh, excuse me. Let me do a caveat. Right. Let me do a quick caveat, a warning. Now, I'm asking about the watchdog, but in general, I am not talking about the show that is done by Julius Hall on Saturdays. Julius Hall, with his ego, gonna probably think, oh yeah, Dr. Tanya Hall will be like, yeah, Jamal saying something about my baby show right now. No, I'm talking about the media in general being a watchdog. Go on, my brother.
My answer is a yes and no, and I'll explain why.
Go ahead.
The media is a watchdog for government and society, but there also should be people who are watchdogs for the media at the same time. We are comprised of human beings. Human beings are fallible. Human beings are influenceable. Human beings can be corrupted. So even you have to set up a series of who's watching the watchers. That is what's happened, what's been wrong with the whole entire thing. Why is it that Fox News says one thing, CNN says another thing, and it's because of their alliances, their allegiances, their lobbyists, and who's got the commercial spot in the 1, 3, and 5 position. You still have to look at that and think, yes, they're telling the same story, but they're telling it differently, and it's skewed. And it's again, if a black man does something wrong, they look back at his history, and you will get a media story of everything they did wrong up until that point. Of, let's say if a black man murdered somebody, you'll get a history of everything they did up until that point, which led to him murdering that person. If a white man murders somebody, they'll look back in the history, and you'll get everything they did good up until that point that they did the turn. So then they say, this is a special case, or this is it. It's a shame that he turned out this way. But the black person, they'll say, well, he's always been this way, and here's what we do to prove it. So even the media can be biased. So therefore, somebody needs to watch the media at the same time. Now, the media has become the watchdog, but I will say this, and I may get in trouble for it. There used to be a thing called journalism and a thing called yellow journalism. We have gone the path of yellow journalism where we want to get it first and not get it right. And we can do a retraction on page 7 of the newspaper 2 days later, but they had the story wrong on the front page, or in this case, on the front of the website. So we've changed it, and because things are immediate, there are people, I'd rather you take your time, get all the facts, give it to me so I can digest it and make up my own mind, not shove it down my throat and say this is the only way, and things are omitted. So even with the news media, we must stop and think and scrutinize what is being told to us. It's funny how you were told as a child, take everything with a grain of salt. And then certain things that we don't. We just take it as gospel. My dad was also a pastor, and I got kicked out of Sunday school because I'd ask a question. If Matthew, Mark, and John were all standing there and all 4 of them saw something different, which one is right? And that changed, the teacher was like, okay, you just caused me trouble, get out. But it's the same thing. If Fox, ABC, NBC, and CBS, all that people are live at the event and they're not seeing the same thing, you have to stop and say, okay, which is the truth? How much is the truth coming from each one? How much is it being skewed? And we must stop and think. We are not sheep unless we allow ourselves to be sheep. And so the answer to the question is, yes, there's a watchdog, but yes, they must be watched as well.
Yeah, and great, and that's it. And again, the concept that we say yes and no, that's a part of the experience that I had when I went to law school. And again, a professor had us to say, what is it? And is it yes or no? And many times you're saying yes, or somebody say no. He's like, no, it's yes and no for us now look at all sides. And what is interesting that we had discussed on one of the previous shows about the fourth estate, that the media represents the fourth estate. You have, again, the clergy, you have the government, you have the people, and then you have the fourth estate. That is the media. That's what to watch it. And I have not told folks we have to have a fifth estate, and that's basically, you and I never had this conversation. The fifth estate is the one that even guys don't watch the media because you threw it up there. That now they get more caught up into, and actually, I should say you threw up layers of it, that with the media gets caught up into yellow journalism. And that, as you said early on in the beginning, just for y'all joining us, this is Tkeban Jahannes, who's the Director of Communication for the National Council for Negro Women, and that he talked about earlier that money drives the news, it drives the media, it drives us, it drives what we are getting, and that African Americans, from studies have said, African Americans, we ingest the media more than Latinos, Asians, and Caucasians. So that means that we're getting our news, our local news and other things with regards to what they're telling us, and we're digesting this poisonous information. So you threw it out there, and that the money drives us with regards to that. And something else you shared too, that I want to get into. That I had this conversation. This was, I want to say, this was 2019. Some media outlets were upset with that, with regards to how some people had handled a program or format that only allows certain elements of media to attend. And so here you go, African American reporters. They're not trying to get upset about what transpired. And I'm saying they never discriminated against you. That this event would allow you to come into the event. They did not discriminate against you. And that now you're carrying on about this. But then I know for a fact at your very station, at your very news outlet, that you all are complaining about discrimination right inside the very facility. But now all of a sudden, you're now going to try to flip the script, that cognitive dissonance with regards to now trying to be hypocritical right now. When I'm like, wait a minute, you see discrimination. And so that's why now I'm moving to this with you. How should African Americans who are in news media function? How should they function? Make a suggestion with regards to how they should function. You know, because you have the experience, you have the wisdom, and some of you might, especially some of you who've been there, you might say, how can he tell me anything? No, because he's a sensible person. He has understanding, and he's been sharing information. Again, Tkeban Jahannes, Director of Communication. So again, how should African Americans within the news media arena, how should they function? Just give them some purpose.
I'm going to refer to one of my favorite movies, The Five Heartbeats. And when they first got the album cover, the man said, why we got to cross over? Why we always got to make allowances? That there is the problem. You don't take black off. Ever. So be true to yourself. Yes, I could probably have gotten farther in life had I not stuck to my guns in certain issues. But I've got to look at my mom in the face. I've got to look at my daughters in the face. I've got to look at myself in the mirror.
Yes, sir.
We cannot compromise our being any longer. You know, many people will rationalize, will analyze it, will do whatever. You know, I'm going to make this deal with the devil so I can get in and bring 3 more people in. But they never get a chance to bring the 3 more people in because they use you up and then spit you back. So going into it, you have to be who you are unapologetically.
All
and
right.
I know this is it's a nice term, but it's the truth. You know, one of the things I can say about Savannah State is some of the people who I have been fortunate to become friends with, lifelong friends with, the one thing I can say about all of them across the board, even being different, is they're authentic. You know, they've always been themselves uncompromisingly.
Okay.
And that is the truth that we need to be as a people. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be militant. That doesn't have to mean you have to walk around carrying guns. It is an internal thing. And there's nothing wrong with being militant or walking around carrying guns because everybody else does it. So we should have the rights and freedoms according to the Constitution as well. But you must be authentic to yourself and to your ancestors. You know, we grow up in a society now where we have changed the game, where we're myopic and we're living instantly. I knew that if I went outside, I represented my mama, my daddy, my grandma, and several ancestors in what I was going to do. It changes the focal point of what's going on because I'm not thinking about self. I'm thinking about us as a community. And that is a lot. And media has a part to play in that, in the stories that are shoved down our throat, that are digested. You know, I have nothing against mixed families, but how many mixed models and actors are portrayed on television right now as opposed to Black people, as opposed to fully Latino? They're always mixed with another race. Now, that goes back historically. Saxons, the Saxon lords would sleep with the Irish wives on their wedding day so they can change the bloodline. And it's been a practice since then, and we've just overlooked it and we don't talk about it. But again, it's still going on. You know, Again, I get a little militant, even though I'm in the media. Like I stopped watching quote unquote organized sports because it is the modern day version of the Romans. Caesar taxed the people, and after he taxed them, he built a large stadium and made them pay to come in to watch people fight. And we call that the NFL, the NHL, and the
Yeah.
MLS, and anything else. But we're still portraying those same things. And government is not Caesar. Don't get it wrong, because government doesn't own all the teams. It's those
Mm-hmm.
people that own the, and yes, they give us, they throw us a bone. Yeah, we're going to help you change your neighborhood so we can build a new stadium and give you $10 million worth of such and such. And yet, they recoup that first $10 million in the first game, and then they make $100 million in the entire season. But we've now given up property. We literally in Atlanta picked up a church and moved it.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Yes.
A
Yes.
church that started the educational process in the AU Center, that's a historical place. They put it on a truck and took it down the street and put it on a different plot of land. So again, for appeasement, we're not living our truth. Now, somebody probably said, well, this is a great deal and it's going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm sitting in the mayor's office as all this is happening. And yes, I have to say sometimes my mouth would be open and I just cover it because I couldn't believe some things were happening. But this is the truth of how we do. We rationalize, we look at, well, this is the greater benefit. And it's never the greater benefit of how we think it is, because we always get the short end of the stick. They always move the goalpost. They always move the line, which is why we need to create our own lines, our own goalposts. Somebody, if we have an all black company, oh, it's bad. If we, you have an all white company until you hire that one black person, and then that black person sit there and be the token and represent, a couple billion people. So you have to look at that, because again, it goes back to the propaganda. Like, words propaganda are, the word socialism was never a bad word.
Yeah.
But the McCarthy and what the FBI did and the propaganda they put in, they made the word socialism sound so bad. And also we went to fight the war against socialism. The war on drugs was never a war on drugs. The war on drugs was a war on minorities, because we don't own no planes, we didn't own no trucks to bring drugs into the inner city urban area in the first place. And then they got serious about them when drugs got into the suburban areas and their children started acting like us, walking like us, talking like us, and then taking the drugs that they were trying to push upon us.
Absolutely.
Long ago, we should take weed and make it legal and tax it, just like we do cigarettes. We could have probably balanced the economy by now, because we have so much we have borrowed so that we can be the superpower and be missionary and meddle to other people's business and other people's countries without taking care of our own. We fight on two fronts every day as American people, internally and externally. And we use the media, and we use color, and we use economic status, and we use money to make those battles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you, Ja, and I'm saying, wow. We've had to do this now. I said early on that, again, this is Tkeban Jahannes, who is the director of communication for the National Council for Negro Women, and that I've been blessed in my life to have great people in my life, and that's why I go and say I am the way that I am right now because of people like you. People I've had on my shows are people that I have personal connections with, and all my shows that we've done with Run Tell That have been impactful, because I just gotta let the audience out there know this is why you got to share this right here, because he's dropping bombs on us for us to understand about how we should not be silent about matters. We shouldn't sit there, because again, they're not giving us these negative images, but he's giving us these jewels. And I'm saying, I've been blessed with my life. I sit here always now and Run Tell That, say I'm amazed at the people I've come in contact with. And you talked about the images with regards to media, what occurs with regards to what they do. And now I want to get your perspective, because you've been doing a dynamic job with regards to now on a particular agenda, and that we understand that, and what we need to do to begin trying to rectify the media, and in particular the media. When I say media, I'm talking about social media and the news with regards to African American males and boys. What has been done to us? Your perspective, because you've been putting out, you've been giving that psychology, you've been giving that knowledge. Oh, shit, man. Rewind. I got to rewind. When did you first see the five heartbeats? I got to do that. Then we're going to go back to it. When did you first see the five heartbeats?
When it first came out.
Okay, when?
In 1986 is the answer, during the spring.
And I want to say that the five heartbeats, I think Dwayne Ross, myself, and you, I think we were part of that. So at least you might go with your girlfriend too. But I'm just saying, so when you said that, I was like,
we all saw it together.
yes, sir. So, and that's why I give it so fitting. So with regards to social media, news media, and how it deals with us as African men. Of course, we know with regards to women, but then I'm looking at it right now because you are in a unique position with regards to this, and you've been involved in this for a long time. So you can elaborate.
The media has been, how do I put this? I wrote a poem, and then my father wrote a poem, and the title of it was called, it's in the book, the anthology of Black poets, and it's called Mental Castration. And basically what the media has done is side of who we are. We're all, since television, since radio, what have you, we were always some sort of buck, whether we were the ghetto hood type, whether we were even in the office, we were always the smooth talking, well-dressed, trying to mac on the ladies type. We were one-dimensional. And that's the fault of the media until we can get in there and run the media. So now we've got many more versions of ourselves, but it's still, if you look at some of the sitcoms of the 90s, we were always that third friend. It was a guy and a girl and his black friend, or a guy and a girl and their black girlfriend, who was one of the best friends of one of the two. And then they started doing it to just the guy and the girl and a minority friend, because they wanted to expand that. I'm gonna step back. A couple years ago, we started doing some stuff in the media about fat shaming. And that's because 90% of America is obese, and that's because what they put in food made us obese, and then we don't take care of ourselves collectively to do exercise. But when that first started coming out about fat shaming, I was like, what about color shaming? What about shaming us because we're not? Why are you shaming somebody at all? Because they're not the same as you. That hit me hard. Whether it's sexual orientation shaming, it doesn't matter. When did we have the right? And it kills me because we are a quote unquote Christian society.
Yes.
But yet it says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." We spend the entire time judging, looking down upon one another. She don't talk like me. He don't walk like me. They don't dress like me. They eat something different. Where their family came from is not the same place where I came from. Their skin color is not like mine. They choose to love the same sex. They choose to change their sex. You ain't got no control over that. We spend more time outside our own selves, outside our own house, trying to control other people than starting with the control of self. And that's what the media has done to the black man, to the black boy, and in some cases to all boys. Why did we have to be strong?
Okay.
What kills me is, and I'm gonna take it to something current. We're dealing with the police killing black men. Ain't nothing new, but it's just more in the news right now. I've always said Why is it that you have a year's worth of training and a weapon on your hip, but I got to stay calm? You're in fear of your life, but I have no weapon. That doesn't sound logical. That doesn't sound right. And anytime somebody tells me calm down, no, I have the right to be emotionally expressive because just like you are a human being, I have all emotions, high, low, anger, frustration, happy, sadness, and I have the right to express them at any given time in my life as long as it's not hurting you. And if I'm not touching you, I'm not hurting you. Now, if my words
Okay.
fall upon you and you are hurt to the point where you didn't want to pull out a gun and shoot me, then there is something systematically wrong with you, not with me. And that's why I don't want to defund the police. I want to re-engage and redesign the police because they we need some type of force, but we don't need it to be in force. And yes, they should be out there trying to be social workers and you know, negotiators or whatnot, psychologists, because that's not their job. But stop doing the job. That's not your job, and call the people to do the job. When you have, you know, it should be a team of people rolling out, not just two people in the car with guns, because we now have evidence for years that that is fallible. There's been too many people killed. And yes, there have been people killed by cops too. But disproportionately, if you look at the numbers, which they never want to give us or they never want to average out, it is black men and black women who are being killed by the police or being demeaned or being degraded. I mean, and it's been going on for years, long before the lynching law, you know, that we just started talking about seriously and putting forth. Why do we have a museum in Alabama about all these people who have died for
Yes.
lynching? For looking
Yes.
at, you know, I looked a woman in her eye and my life is forfeit. Come on.
Mm.
You can't
Yeah.
tell me, regardless of your skin color, that you can justify that that's good behavior.
Mm.
And at the same time, the dichotomy of you having black nannies and servants and
Yeah.
housekeepers and drivers and think that these people are good, but the entire race is bad. Aren't they part of that entire race? But at the same
That's
time,
true.
again, I have to go back to 3 millimeters of skin and melanin makes the difference between your body and mine. That is all. But yet we have bought into, because we have been fed by books, we have been fed by TV, we have been fed by cartoons, by movies, everything, that white is right and black get back. I had a conversation with my daughter the other day about the dictionary. And she said, I need to find something in the dictionary. I said, which one? There's a whole generation that doesn't know that there was more than one dictionary because the propaganda is such that the Webster Dictionary works for those people who were in charge and putting the definitions in the way they wanted to. They don't know about funks and wagnalls.
Okay.
And it was so words change, words have power, and if you are controlling that power, you're controlling the word, which means you're controlling the message, which means you're controlling the definition. In science class, I took a prism and it said that black is the absence of all color. And I was like, no, if you put every color on top of one another, it makes black. So that means
Right.
the reverse is if you take the colors away, it makes white, which means white is the absence of all color. But in the dictionary we all use, and I guarantee if you go right now to your Webster dictionary and look at that, that's what it says. The absence of all color is black. That's incorrect.
That's
But
right.
that's who we're in.
Yeah.
That's who the power was. And it all goes back to our perception. We have told our black boys, you have to be hard. You have to fight. How in the hell are you being disrespected by somebody saying something to you unless you believe it? So you can't be disrespected unless you feel disrespected. And you can't feel disrespected if you don't even know what respect is.
Mm.
So
Mm.
we get a whole thing with the media. He disrespected me. How? You stepped on my shoe. No, did he apologize? Yeah. Even if he didn't apologize, in the grand scheme of things, it is not worth somebody else's life. We fight for no reason, and they look at it as entertainment.
Mm.
When I
Yeah.
first moved to Savannah, we lived on Wilmington Island in Wilmington Park. We were one of 3 black families out there. My first day of school, first of all, I was shocked that I was getting on a yellow bus at all. When I got on the yellow bus, it was the high school kids and the elementary school kids. Now, it wasn't a whole bunch of high school kids because those kids in Wilmington Park had their own cars and whatnot. But I sat down there, and the little boy next to me, after sweating and being nervous for about 10 minutes, asked me, was I from Yamacraw? I didn't know what Yamacraw was. I had been in the city less than a week. So I said, no, I'm not from Yamacraw. Later on, I found out he meant Yamacraw Village,
Right.
which was the hood. In his mind, on TV was black people were only from the hood and on the news. This was the perspective he had, and what he didn't even know was that Yamacraw Village was a village from the Indians that were taken over, and then the slaves and black people were pushed there by white people who wanted to take over the land. So even his perception was incorrect, but that is part of the problem. We never look at the root. Because I could have said no and never thought of it again, but I was like, no, this is a word I don't know. This is something I don't know. And I need to know his perspective and where he's coming from because I had to deal with him the next couple of days once I found out what it was. And it was important to know that things are not perceived correctly because somebody has twisted it, somebody has turned it, and the media does it best of all. We take what was a half-truth and say it 20 times to where it becomes a whole truth, or you think it's a whole truth.
Yes, indeed, my brother. Ja, I'm gonna let you know the scams for all you listening who just joined us. This is Tkeban Jahannes, Director of Communication for the National Council of Negro Women. We're gonna have you on again because again, I got some other questions I had posed that I want to pose to you. We're gonna have to address this because it involves politics and the media and it involves us. So, my brother, I'm gonna give you 1 minute to go and leave the people with something. So that way, Julius Hall, our producer, would not be on me about this. I'm gonna give you 1 minute because again, it's been an honor to have you. I'm gonna let you close us out because again, you gave a powerful conversation. We had a powerful conversation, my brother.
First of all, thank you for reaching out to me. It's always my honor. I'm humbled by doing anything with my upside down too, brother. I'm not saying anything that's new. I'm saying things that have been said to me by other people. I always say that I'm not the smartest person in the room. So if I'm not the smartest and I start to think it, then at least 10 other people are thinking it too. We must come together and make us a stronger force. Again, in regards to NCNW, we are an organization of mainly women because there's the Charles L. Franklin Associates, which are the male associates of the NCNW that I'm also a part of. So men can join too. And it's about the same things that we got in college for, the same things that we join fraternities, organizations for. We focus happen to be on women, but it's about bettering ourselves to better the Black race as a whole. Thank you.
Indeed. Great. And our brother Don from Phi Beta Sigma, our line brother, he joined us, so Don in the house. That's right. Spring 86 in the house. Ipicon, everybody's here. And so, John, Ipicon gonna be back. So now, John, let you know, you're gonna be back too. And so those of you, we say to you, run tell that. This has been a great show, great people. We continue on. Each one of you be safe. Love your family. Look out for one another. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.